In this video, I'll explain once and for all who the mutants are in Marvel, what it means to be an Omega level mutant, and what it really signifies to be Omega level. I'll take the opportunity to rank the official list of Omega level mutants from Marvel based on their power levels. Which of these mutants with incomprehensible power are the most powerful? And more importantly, why are they the most powerful? Be sure to like and subscribe to help the channel grow and to keep up with everything about mutants and the Marvel Universe. In Marvel, there are several groups of characters with super abilities, some of which are quite famous like the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Thunderbolts, the Inhumans, and so on. But there's one group that's the most famous of all in the comics, the Mutants, the X-Men. Within the mutant universe, each mutant has a mutation that grants them superpowers. Based on the type of ability, weaknesses, or how this ability manifests, Marvel classifies each of these mutants. There are beta-level mutants, alpha-level mutants, gamma-level mutants, and many more. However, the mutants at the top of the power hierarchy are known as Omega-level mutants, and some have even been classified as beyond Omega level. So, you might wonder, what does it essentially mean to be an Omega-level mutant? It means that the mutant in question has no known limits to their powers. They're extremely powerful, and within their specific type of power, they're the strongest mutant that exists. For example, there are several mutants who control the weather, winds, lightning, etc. But Storm, a member of the X-Men, is the most powerful mutant in this type of mutation. She surpasses all others who control weather and elements. Similarly, there are mutants who control magnetism, like Polaris. She can move metals, but in this type of power there's someone called Magneto, who's the most formidable in using magnetic powers. He's the king of magnetism, which is why he is Omega level. No one surpasses him in magnetism, and his control over it is limitless. However, there's more to know. A mutant can have 2, 3, or more different powers. Like Jean Grey, not all of these powers will necessarily be Omega level. For example, Jean Grey has telepathy and telekinesis, but only her telepathy is classified as Omega level, not her telekinesis. Her telekinesis is outmatched by the mutant Exodus, who is considered Omega level when it comes to telekinesis. And yes, there are theories that a single mutant might possess 2 Omega level abilities, in which case they would be classified as beyond Omega level, but that's very rare. But currently, it's not like that anymore. In 2019, Marvel established new rules and officially changed things. Now there are only 14 Omega-level mutants. The writer Jonathan Hickman, who is responsible for the X-Men franchise in the comics, confirmed this, so this list is what counts. Now, out of all the Omega-level mutants, which are the most powerful? We're going to rank them here, but since they're essentially gods, it's a challenging task. I'll use my own opinion and the power feats of these characters because there isn't an official ranking for them. You can also make your own list based on what you know about each of them. So, let's get started. Number 14. Elixir. Elixir opens the list as the mutant with the power of biokinesis, meaning he can manipulate the biology of others or his own. It's a very interesting power, but is mainly used to support other mutants. He can restore entire organs and lost limbs of his allies. At his peak, he has even been able to resurrect people. However, despite being very powerful, he ranks last for several reasons. The first is that he still doesn't know the extent of his powers. He relies heavily on biological knowledge to manipulate his powers, and since he's very young, he still has a lot to develop. Another reason is the lack of an offensive factor in his powers. The character himself acknowledges that his power is not very useful in combat, so he's developed a death touch, where anyone he touches with his hands dies immediately. Despite being incredibly strong, it's a short-range power, and he would have trouble facing any character on this list. That's why he's taking the last place. Number 13. Storm. Many people end up underestimating the mutant goddess because her powers are related to weather manipulation. Indeed, it's a relatively simple power, but in Aurora's hands, it becomes a true weapon, capable of going toe-to-toe with gods. Null, the god of symbiotes, has seen her as a threat while she was destroying various symbiote dragons he sent. Her lightning bolts are so powerful, they were able to react to and block an energy blast from Cyclops without any problem. Her storms can obliterate Sentinel robots, giant machines made exclusively to destroy mutants. She was able to temporarily block the Dark Phoenix in mid-flight using the forces of her storms. Yeah, she briefly stopped an entity using only the strong winds of a storm. She's definitely one of the mutants who's mastered her powers to the maximum. Her attacks have even managed to hurt Legion, a character who will appear later on this list. So her powers may be simple, but they are certainly not weak. Number 12. Magneto. Magneto is one of the many mutants who were waiting to become an Omega level mutant, and fortunately Marvel has updated his status to 1. His power, as his name suggests, is related to the control of magnetism, but like Storm, his powers are at the highest level of refinement, placing him on this select list of characters. The variety of his powers is extensive, but let's focus on the main ones granted by his control of magnetism. He can create shields around himself, an entire building strong enough to withstand attacks from Cyclops, Iron Man, and even Thor's hammer strikes. He can levitate colossal structures using his powers, such as entire mountains and the shield helicarrier. For a long time, he's self-proclaimed as the most powerful mutant alive, and faced entire teams of heroes alone. He ranks ahead of Storm because of his absurd control over his powers. In many comics, we see him single-handedly facing the Avengers, Apocalypse, Ghost Rider, and has even fought Phoenix alone. His energy attacks have been powerful enough to surpass nuclear attacks. He's also shown that he can extend his powers to planetary levels, manipulating metal thousands of kilometers away from Earth. Whether you like it or not, these feats are even greater than those of his teammate, who held the previous position. Number 11. Kid Omega. Kid Omega falls into the same category as Jean Grey as an Omega-level telepath. Both possess an absurd level of power that places them together in the top spot, but the difference is that Jean has more significant feats, and Kid is more violent with his powers. He's killed an opponent by carving his name into their mind. He's trapped Wolverine inside a telepathic room and even made an entire club of people attack the mutant. His mental power is so great that he has accelerated thought, making him a young genius compared to others. In addition to creating energy constructs such as shields and weapons, the bullets from these weapons directly attack the brain, causing the person hit to suffer unfiltered pain, which must be horrible. However, he doesn't have enough significant feats to climb higher on the list, so he stays in this position despite theoretically having the same level of power as Jean Grey, who ranks higher. Number 10. Vulcan. When Vulcan was introduced in the comics, he was a true monster, capable of shutting down Cyclops' powers and easily overpowering mutants like Havoc. He endured exchanging blows with a weakened Black Bolt, and destroyed entire fleets of Shi'ar Empire spaceships using his power to manipulate energy. He can fly at interstellar speeds, traveling from Earth to deep space in a matter of days. He can manipulate the energy that traverses the brain, giving him a form of telepathy, allowing him to create illusions and block the mental powers of powerful telepaths like Rachel Summers. Additionally, by manipulating energy, he can exhibit a form of telekinesis, moving objects and people in the process. Currently, he doesn't demonstrate the same immeasurable power he once possessed, which is why he ranks lower on the list. Moreover, he never reached a level of power that made him seem nearly invincible, unlike those who will appear later on this list. Number 9. Exodus. Exodus is not one of the most well-known mutants to the younger audience, as he made most of his fame in the 1990s. He's a character born in the 12th century, and has worked for both Apocalypse and Magneto. His powers are telepathy and telekinesis, sometimes surpassing Jean Grey and Kid Omega. When he's losing a fight, he can absorb psionic energy around him, and from his enemies to become even more powerful. He's been able to simultaneously withstand attacks from Cyclops, Storm, Black Knight, and Scarlet Witch, all heavy hitters. This was while using telepathy to render Quicksilver and Jean Grey unconscious. His attacks have even surpassed Magneto's barriers, and as mentioned earlier, those barriers are incredibly strong. He's fought Nate Grey to a standstill, who at the time was powerful enough to be considered omnipotent. Their battle was so intense that it caused the Earth to tremble. Using his telekinesis, he reconstructed Professor Xavier's brain, atom by atom, after he had been shot. Considering that he has at some point surpassed all the previous characters on this list, it's fair for him to hold this position. The only one he hasn't surpassed is Vulcan, but his feats are still significantly superior to those of Vulcan. Number 8. Jean Grey. Jean Grey is one of the most well-developed female characters within the publisher, and undoubtedly one of the most powerful. Remember, everything mentioned here pertains to Jean Grey herself, not the Phoenix. or their combined form. Her telepathy and telekinesis are powerful enough for even a Celestial to consider her a threat. Speaking of Celestials, she's currently using her mental powers to confront the progenitor Celestial and save Earth with the X-Men. This demonstrates the high level of mental power she possesses. In this same saga, Iron Man believed she was wielding the Phoenix Force due to the power she was releasing. Even other telepaths don't reach her level. When Jean discovered Cyclops' affair with Emma Frost, she made a mess of Emma's mind. She's also been capable of disconnecting Bruce Banner's mind from the Hulk's body, showcasing the true strength of the Green Monster. Her shields are so powerful that she can block energy attacks from Black Bolt himself, and she often saves the X-Men team from concentrated explosions. She's an extremely powerful and consistent character regarding her power level. Even her younger version was able to surpass the combined power of Emma Frost and her clones. Number 7. Iceman. Iceman has become not only one of the most famous mutants in the publisher, but also one of the most powerful. Unlike many on this list, he's been long considered an Omega-level mutant and possesses an incredible variety of feats. He managed to inflict damage on Cyclops, who was completely insane with the power granted by the Dark Phoenix. He froze a large part of the hellish dimension in Marvel, demonstrating that fire, even magical fire, is nothing to him. He's created hundreds of clones to fight Red Hulk, one of the publisher's physical heavyweights. He froze the energy beams and the rest of the body of an entity called the Stranger, who is responsible for creating Ego, the living planet. As an Omega-level mutant, he has full capabilities to destroy the planet, in addition to having a telepathy link to water that makes him almost omniscient. However, the next character on this list are strong enough to disrupt the universe if they wish, so he ranks 7th. He's still above Vulcan, who despite being very powerful, has not demonstrated the same level of power he initially presented. He's also above Exodus for being an almost unstoppable force of nature. And I haven't even mentioned that Iceman is practically immortal, since he can transfer his consciousness through his clones or through the water around the planet. Iceman is a very consistent character, and is always at the top of the mutant power hierarchy, deservedly ranking above the other characters. Number 6. Hope Summers. I decided to place Hope Summers exactly in the middle of this list due to the nature of her powers. Her abilities are quite simple. She can perfectly mimic the power of one or more mutants nearby. This mimicry is so effective that she has no trouble controlling the powers of those she copies, implying that she possesses the same capabilities as the original bearer. She's ranked 6 precisely because she has no powers of her own, and relies on others to truly be an Omega-level mutant. While she can become almost omnipotent if she is near one of the upcoming mutants on the list, she can also be completely useless if there are no powerful individuals around. For example, if she were to fight Iron Man alone, there's a high chance she would lose, as he has no powers for her to copy and relies on his armor for combat. Therefore, it's only fair to place her in the middle of the list, where she can be nearly invincible or very weak depending on the situation. Number 5. Mr. M. Mr. M is one of the most underutilized Omega-level mutants so far. In fact, his status is listed as unknown among mutants, so even they don't know where he is. His reality manipulation is at a molecular level, and some of his feats easily place him at the top of the mutant hierarchy. He's been able to use his powers to suppress the abilities of other mutants around him. He's claimed he can manipulate the structure of the air around him to create nuclear explosions, as well as create and manipulate beings. For instance, he once created a dinosaur and casually transformed it into a butterfly. As mentioned, he's extremely powerful, but very underutilized. He holds this position due to his reality manipulation power, which is an absurd ability and by itself elevates him significantly on the list. However, since he hasn't performed any notable feats, he ranks below the other manipulators, who will appear next. Number 4. Jamie Braddock. Moving on to another reality manipulator, we have Jamie Braddock. Jamie is an extremely psychologically fractured character who believes he's living in a dream, where he can do anything. Well, he's wrong about the dream part, but his powers truly allow him to do absolutely anything. Thanks to his quantum-level reality manipulation, he sees the world through strings and pulls them to make whatever he wants to happen. He can create objects, teleport, distort space around him, and has even resurrected himself. He's also stolen the powers of other X-Men, and sometimes even their appearance came along with the powers. Erasing beings from existence is another thing he can do effortlessly, and he can even possess a certain degree of magic. He's one of the strongest and most versatile mutants of all, with his only limitation being his extremely fractured mind. He could be ranked 3rd on this list, but I place him at 4th primarily due to his mental instability. However, the difference between 3rd and 4th place, in this case, is minimal. Number 3. Proteus. Proteus is another reality manipulator, and the one who opens the top 3 on this list. Although he is also a reality manipulator, he doesn't have as many feats as the next characters to come. For a long time he was treated as a villain, so he didn't appear as frequently in the comics, but he's strong enough to hold this position and has more feats than Mr. M. During a fight against the X-Men, he was able to turn all of Magneto's blood into lead and melt Iceman himself. His powers have also been capable of shaking the entire planet, frightening many of the heroes present. He's even transformed Cyclops' optic blast into popcorn and reversed gravity during a fight with the X-Men. As he doesn't have a physical form, he can reform his entire body if it's destroyed, and possesses one or more bodies simultaneously. Using his powers, he was even able to confront and momentarily surpass Jean with the Phoenix Force. This feat of battling the Phoenix places him above the other 2 reality manipulators below him, who have not accomplished something as grand. It's important to remember that the Phoenix is an extremely powerful being, even when not at full strength, and fighting against it is an extremely significant achievement for any on the list. Number 2. Franklin Richards. Although Franklin Richards is currently no longer considered a mutant, he held that status for decades, and in the most recent X-Men phase, he was on the official list. It has recently been revealed that he indeed retained his powers, having kept them hidden even from himself, so he does belong on this list. Regarding his powers, most viewers know that they are absurdly potent. He frequently appears on lists of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel, and has accomplished feats that everyone's familiar with. As a child, he created his own pocket universe while playing under a blanket. He was able to injure Mephisto within his own dimension of Dominion. He fought against Celestial and even saw his future self travel back in time to aid in the battle and make Galactus his own herald. He created a box that deactivated Black Bolt's power, allowing him to speak normally, meaning he can neutralize powers. He was the primary reason the Earth's heroes survived the villain massacre, transporting them to another dimension to avoid the villain's final attack. After Secret Wars, he, alongside Molecule Man, reconstructed the entire multiverse. If it weren't for the next and final character on the list, Franklin would easily be the most powerful mutant of all, but he is certainly very close to that position. Number 1. Legion. There's no doubt that despite Franklin Richards' incredible power, the mutant with the greatest number of feats is the son of Professor Xavier. Currently in the comics, this character has been said to be capable of destroying the entire multiverse in a battle against the celestial Uranos. He's even erased himself from existence completely, and then reversed this, coming back into existence even though this is highly paradoxical and seemingly impossible. One of his personalities was responsible for traveling back in time and accidentally killing Professor Xavier, creating a reality where Apocalypse defeated the mutants and rules the planet. His telepathic abilities are so powerful that he placed his consciousness back into his own body despite Professor Xavier's resistance. With one of his many personalities and powers, he easily destroyed a Nimrod with an acidic attack launched by the Good. Nimrods are the highest class of Sentinel robots and have previously defeated the entire X-Men team. He's been able to prevent other mutants from accessing their powers simply by touching them. This list of his feats could go on all day, as the character possesses nearly unlimited powers. The truth is that he and Franklin are ridiculously powerful, but in my opinion, based on everything that's happened in the comics, Legion is still superior. But these are all the official Omega level mutants ranked by power. If you disagree with any position, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and share to help us become the biggest nerd channel on YouTube. See you in the next video.